And then, can we pass it just so that our guests can sign in at the bottom? Thank you.
Those are mine. No, I don't know, that's not my notes, I have one. I have them.
Okay. I've already heard pen. Thank you. So we're just signing over you guys.
Yeah, towards the bottom, so that we can keep track of our guests as well. Thank you. And I take it, thank you for sending the emails so that everybody
One of
else.
them got returned, I don't remember who it was, I think she's Viviana's, but then I know you didn't.
Frank's,
So.
Frank's was bouncing.
Okay.
It has a .net, but I think you've got it, you're at a .com now, right? Frank Architects.
I think so. It's Able City. It's a new email.
So we just sign in at the bottom, just.
Maybe you want to put it on there. Your new email.
Is the closest?
Oh, mine was sponsored?
No, the one you
No.
sent to your,
Oh, we already
to
live?
Viviana.
Yeah, we're already recording, because
I
I
did
thought we
wrong.
were calling
Sent
the meeting
home?
to order, so we're,
Okay,
Did they-
everyone, let's go ahead and we're calling the meeting to order. It's 4:04. And let's go ahead and begin. That was item 1. Item 2, roll call.
Okay, Henry Sevigny,
Here.
Carol Schemmer,
here.
Vanessa Guerra,
Here.
Ben Puig,
Here.
Patty Gilbert,
Here.
Martin Aleman, present, and Arturo will not be making it today. Okay, so we have a quorum, Mr. Chairman, we can begin the meeting.
Thank you very much. In a prior email, the minutes of the past meeting were shared with us and were there for your review and comment. Are there any comments, corrections, additions to the minutes as sent to us?
I didn't bring them, I usually bring them, I didn't.
I have them. I have them.
I don't know if anybody, well, I don't need them, I read them, I thought they were fine, I don't know if anybody else. So if everything, motion that we accept the minutes.
There's it's been moved that we accept the minutes as presented. Is there a second?
Second.
All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed? Motion carries. Next item on the agenda is citizen comments. Item 4, citizens are required to fill out a witness card and submit it to the chairperson or designee no later than 4:15 p.m. and identify themselves before speaking. Comments are limited to 3 minutes per speaker. No more than 3 persons will be allowed to speak on any side of an issue. Should there be more than 3 people who wish to speak on a particular issue, they need to select not more than 3 representatives to speak for them, and the presiding officer may limit the public comments further in the interest of an orderly meeting. Speakers may not pass their minutes to another speaker. Comments should be relevant to the city business and delivered in a professional manner. No derogatory remarks will be permitted. Next item on the agenda, 5, a discussion and possible action on items related to the Downtown TERS Number 1 area tour held on January 8th, 2019. So this is the moment, this is the point where we make comments on our walking some of the zone of the TERS. And first of all, I want to thank the board members and guests for attending the walk, at least for me, who drives it most of the time. It was, I learned quite a bit from this. You know, walking down Zaragoza, I got a feel that we were starting from zero. And then walking back up through Iturbide, I realized we're not starting from zero. So it also set a tone for a model, a possible model, when we do hire and work with someone who's going to be helping with these projects to get for a feel for it. I'd like to note that we made notes on sidewalks, the elevation of sidewalks, the inconsistency of sidewalks, the inconsistency of the roads in terms of the streets, in terms of pavers in some areas, concrete on others, asphalt on others, and when concrete was used, it was stamped with alternate, varying kinds of stamps so that there was no consistency. The number of the feel of abandonment was very clear in some areas as we were walking by, and the fact that there's a need for some maintenance. Those are just my general comments. I'd like to also note that I agreed that, that one of the discussion, some of the discussion on the tourist as spelled out by the founding document is that we're trying to connect what is the outlets to what is San Agustin and start there in terms of connectivity, walkability, to encourage people to walk from the outlets to what is now Iturbide Street and La Posada area and the San Agustin area. I take note of a comment made by Julian that we need to also pay attention to walkability on a north and south basis. If you have employees that are working just north of the area, and it was a friendly way to get into the downtown area for the Iturbide Street and the restaurants and the art center, etc., it may encourage more people to come into that area. So just a point noted. I'd like to turn the floor over to any other board members that would like to make any comments.
Nobody says anything. I guess I just want to share as far as the need of maintenance. And I think, Jose, I haven't been to the meetings, but I know that there have been grouping in reference to the downtown, which is part of the Thirst area. Ramon Chavez and Blasita Lopez have been attending those meetings. They've asked me to also prepare to meet with them once they've come, I guess, to an agreement or a list of things to address. But in reference to maintenance, we are starting to work with some of the departments to continue some of the things that maybe were being done in the past that hadn't been done. I know Ben was talking about the trees. We did address that about 6 months. There was an issue with ants, infestation of ants and killing the trees. We took care of that. You mentioned also the mulch around instead of having that iron deal. That's something that we're still considering to continue doing. Power washing was also happening at one point in time. We're trying to get it back. I guess if we look at the corner of Salinas and Zaragoza, you could see that there was buffalo grass there in that building and stuff. And that's kind of the discussions that happen a lot, to where it says, well, that's private property, and like I've mentioned, that's an issue we're gonna have to address, that the sidewalks and all of that belong to private property. So we only clean this. Well, we're trying to address that too, to where the city takes a little bit more ownership on some of these issues, so that we can take care of them. We're already cleaning certain areas, and it's just gonna be so much. Well, let's do it all the way through. So I know that Ramon and Blasita are working on that. Just for information purposes as well, Blasita has been put pretty much as a liaison by management, Mr. De Leon, for the downtown, I guess, beautification project. I don't know what y'all have really been calling it, but she's gonna be the lead as far as making sure to bring all the parties involved to try to put some connectivity to all the groups and that. And she, like I said, they've already reached out to me that they want to come visit to the board once they have a fully set plan presented, and that way, when we start making some of the decisions about what we just saw today, we can bring them together with some of the things that are being discussed, comprehensive plan, their beautification of downtown, and so forth, so that we can walk together and address pretty much a number of things that we're seeing that we want to address with the church fund.
Henry, can I add something along the lines? So there was a roundtable that started meeting in September with Blasita and Ramon, and a lot of it had to do with developmental obstacles. But then we realized that there was a lot of low-hanging fruit. So we actually have programmed in partnership with downtown and the city. The city has taken the lead in the beautification event. This is January 19th on a Saturday from 8 to 12. And the idea is to work on the power washing, and that's kind of an industrial role, so the city will take the lead on that. It's also going to involve a couple of art projects that we're going to do on the private side and identify the locations. As well, tree trimming from the city side, tree trimming from the private side. Laredo Main Street through Priscilla is going to obtain permission required to work on the private sector side. And ultimately, on those corridors, so with the ones we walked, from Santa Úrsula to Santa Maria, on Zaragoza, and then on Iturbide. And then the Tangelo Parkway and Convent. Those are the strips that we'll be working on the 19th. And the city has a nonprofit volunteer registry or system, so that they're programming about 880 volunteers to come out. So for those of you that are downtown, to come out and join us, and the idea is to kind of do this in partnership. There's a back end of this, right, if we're gonna bring folks to open a business downtown, is Ramon has been helping to develop a flow chart, a guidebook, so to speak, and actually Julian's been participating in that process too, to establish a guide that people can use, anybody can use when they're trying to get back downtown or open something new or rebuild, remodel, because everything's kind of all over the place.
Right.
And I say that generally, but in any case, the date is the 19th. As you can see, there's a lot of low-hanging fruit that we could, from tree trimming to, I mean, some of those trees, one of those trees on Convent is actually dead. You know, that Salinas block at the end where Carol took us down, that's been like that for a while. So the other thing in that roundtable is we're identifying who's responsible for, I guess Parks is responsible for some cleanup, Public Works is responsible for other cleanup. So there are multiple departments, so we've identified schedules. I still think there's a lot of work to do on power washing and just regular old maintenance.
Right.
But in any case, I think it's good forward-moving action that on the part of the city and on the part of the private sector. So,
Thank you.
Well, I really enjoyed our walk. I'm glad that everybody was able to make it.
For the record, I'd like to thank Carol for having programmed everything. Thank you for thinking about how we were going to do it and everything.
Thank you for
Appreciate
being
it.
amenable to it. I am encouraged with everybody's feedback and with what's happening, what seems to be everybody's forward progression to make things nice and attractive downtown and make it another place for commerce where you can walk and go eat, work. What is it, Julian? Live, work, eat, and play. Yeah, all those things. But I'm at, whenever I hear that especially that the public sector is doing this and that, and you know, like you say, well, we can't clean there because that's private property, but maybe we could, and we've talked about this, where there could be some kind of committee connected to the tours that allows for the stakeholders, the private sector stakeholders, landowners, to connect to what's happening here, because there is a disconnect communication-wise in this community, in this downtown community, and I feel like maybe we could help bridge that by like we have private. Well, I'm representing the private sector here on this board, and we have some private sector people that meet here. But maybe if we could form a committee, and I think the TERS boards can do that, and so we could have a stakeholder committee that just is an option. It wouldn't be any part of this board, right? But we could meet maybe here at the designated time and then report back.
But how is that different from the committee? I'm just saying, if we've already done some work, how is that different from the work with the committee work, so that you all put it
I haven't been invited to that committee, and I haven't been invited to any other committee, and I'm very interested in that power walk. And I am on the Laredo Main Street, and I am aware of this beautification project as of today because of that. But there are a lot of property owners that are very disconnected from our community, our downtown community, because they don't know where to go. There's a lot of frustration, like Julian says, every time you try and do something. Patty's a business owner down here. Every time you try and do something, Julian's been trying to open some. He's had first-hand experience on what to do, where to go. And so we've got these, Jose, I thought that, I remember when you did that presentation, you talked about that you were gonna connect all of the different committees or groups that work in this community, the downtown community. But how did that go?
well, I felt that, I think in the end of the, you're gonna need some sort of broader alliance, because there's so many segments.
And so there is a broader alliance.
And, yeah, so I thought and this might take us a little bit on a tangent, what the outlet shops was trying to do, I thought that would organically become the alliance, but I see progressively there's less people attending, so I don't know if that's actually gonna happen there. what the committee, the roundtable that I was talking about was developed because of the conference center planning.
Right.
And it was trying to address technical aspects where the city could perhaps change policy, change processes. Of course, when you start looking at it, it's a lot of moving parts, right? So we just started looking at low-hanging fruit, so to speak. But it's broad, it's very broad. So I think, Carol, it's kind of specialized what you're suggesting. I think all of the other groups are kind of mixed.
What am I suggesting?
The stakeholder where you have property owners. I don't know that we have a particular group that's just the property owner is what I'm trying to get at. And I don't know if that may be needed, right? Especially if you're, in the future, you're looking at vacancy registries and
Right.
how do you, getting permission from them to be able to clean their storefronts.
Is there ordinances in place for that? I mean, that's what I don't get. Some of them look really bad. Is there anything that makes them?
And when you say
maintain
something really bad, the properties you mean?
The properties that are just abandoned.
Not, no.
The only thing would be maybe substandard buildings, but I mean, it would have to be very.
Or like
hazardous.
condemn it, yeah.
Hazardous.
Other than that, you
You
can't
know?
kind of
At this point, there are
enforce.
no ordinances.
I mean, I think it would be,
No.
we've talked about this for a long time, but if we could have some kind of a, just like the mall does when they have empty locations and they put up that, whatever it is, that artwork on the windows.
Right.
Anything like that would make such a huge difference downtown.
You
Well,
could do that
huge
through a
difference.
municipal management district. You could do that through a
I mean,
municipal management
All
district.
those
They can actually
abandoned
create
vacant
enforcement
buildings,
and
if
new
we just
regulations.
put something attractive to look at.
And so that
With
would
the
be, that would be
permission of them, but-
the downtown community, like any kind of homeowners association helping itself. But so maybe baby steps
Yeah.
would be because, seems like we're moving forward here on this board, right?
Well, I wanted to say, Patty, that actually Payless Shoe Store, we're hoping to have
Something like that. But
something
so
like
are
that.
you gonna, do you have some kind of design in
Well-
place that people can continue, like a theme or something that it'll all look,
We met with an
you know?
artist this morning, so hopefully he'll give us something that can get us started. Because that's still in the historic district, so we're gonna try to do, we're gonna have to do it from the inside, not on the outside.
Right, it has to be done on the inside, right.
So we're gonna test out what I was saying.
Now, like a graphic artist, are you talking about?
Street art.
Street art,
arts.
okay, so I'm talking about like what the mall does, something a lot simpler, a lot more
More corporate.
economical, more corporate, where it's continuity.
You can't
And then
have a
of course
broken-
have the artsy
Broken
stuff, but there's a lot of people that don't care about that. And that maybe we could sell something,
That goes to the
another
inside of the
concept that's a
window
lot
that-
cheaper,
Yeah, I see what you're saying.
or talk them into it at least, that is more accessible to everybody.
And we could do that amongst ourselves as property owners, get together.
Well, but we would
And
need
I
some,
think-
Well, right, but we have to start by
Right.
talking to each other.
And I think that's part of the RFQ that we have right now, where we're gonna have we're gonna be contracting someone who's gonna help with the coordination of this. And I think part of the coordination is that if we're tackling, just to name a street, I'm not saying what it says, Iturbide and Lincoln, then those property owners have to be contacted so that they're aware of what's going on, so that they're aware of what the project's gonna be looking like. Isn't that where you're going with that, or not?
Yes, kind of. But I just wanted, what I think that we need, and maybe even though our board is not tasked with that, I know that our board can have committees.
Yeah.
And so I'm interested in maybe
The board can do that.
creating a committee of property owners.
If you're
private property owners, so that-
If you're
so that
willing,
when the-
if you're willing to tackle that, we're behind you in tackling that. But right now, as a board member and as chair, I think we need to tackle what we were charged with doing. And that is addressing the connectivity in terms of hiring someone who's gonna bring here, who's gonna help with design and all of that. I think that's important, and that's where the person's gonna bring in the property owners. But I wanna move forward with the RFQ and the design. And part of that RFQ and design involves contacting the property owners. We can't do it without contacting the property owners. So I'm in agreement. I just don't know at what point we begin putting together the property owners.
Well, there's a couple here.
I understand,
Yeah.
I understand.
I mean, I just remember when we bought one of the Tres company, that's the first thing they said, you know, as you continue with this, you're gonna have to contact each of the owners, let them know that
Right.
if they want any changes or whatever, this type of improvements are gonna be done underground, if we were to go underground, so that.
We
as-
need,
as
we
they-
need to know who they are.
Right.
Yeah, they need to be brought in.
By the way, Priscilla's coming out tomorrow to talk to some of the property owners on those streets, on those two streets, so that could be something that she could probably help with too. if
You know,
she's
that's
out.
not a bad idea, if we're talking about an umbrella organization that may be able to help us with that.
And
Yeah,
Well,
it's not just property owners, though, it's business owners, because they're
That's right.
two different things. I
Yeah.
mean, we're renters and we're property owners, you know?
Some are
Two
just
different
one.
things, right.
But going back to the ordinances, and we said there's no ordinance, are there downtown tourists that have ordinances that are specific, that are tailored to tourists for downtowns, like to help facilitate some of the things that we're talking about?
What I envision is that if we want an ordinance, that we would try to, we can push for an ordinance and take it through council and just be the city overall. And it's coming because of the work. that's
Right,
being
but
done by the tourist
I'm
board.
sure there's been other cities that are just going through what we're going through, and instead of reinventing the wheel, it's something already been developed.
I was telling Henry, because I read it recently, that there's, San Antonio did that. They were getting tired of all these old buildings and.
so that's what I shared, and I know he's gone, I'll look for the email again. I shared the email with a couple of people here, the ordinances, the steps and the processes that San Antonio took in terms of addressing vacant and abandoned buildings in the downtown area. It's had significant results. But, you know, originally there was, you know, it's something that has to be talked out. It's not as easy to implement as well with Zing, because you're gonna have comments from the property owners.
Why are you forcing me to do this? It's my building. Yeah, it might be looking, it might look ugly, but,
It's mine.
That's what I
and
wanted
it's
to
not
look at.
falling apart, you
Yeah.
know? And I guess you can speak to that too, I mean, but that's technically
So,
what happened.
so
it's
what
possible.
happened, so what happened, it's very possible, so what San
Okay.
Antonio did was, it attacked it in two fronts. It created a standard, the ordinance created a standard of what an abandoned building needed to look like. And I'm gonna use one example that stuck in my mind, nothing can be rusty on the building. So already that means that the owner, the property owner, has to make sure doors and ironworks doesn't rust.
It has to
So
be
that takes
painted.
maintenance, and if they don't, there's a fee, and there's a fine involved. And they also readdressed the issue of vacant properties and the taxes assessed on vacant properties. Because in San Antonio, historically, the argument was, it's empty, you shouldn't be charging me so much for it because there's no business going on here. And the city just say, yeah, but it's been empty for 10 years. You just don't want to do something with this. You haven't tried. And so after X number of years, the property value begins to change, whether it's used or not used. And that incentivized owners to start finding uses.
Or sell them.
Or so. But that was not an easy sell in San Antonio.
How did they get
And
it?
it's not necessarily easy,
I'm
no
sorry,
matter
How did they get
where.
it through?
City council, finally, the city council believed that that was the right way to go. And really, the major property, and that, so the city council passed it. They passed it through ordinances, but not after quite a bit of lobbying.
Did it take years, Henry?
No,
Oh.
it didn't take years.
Do you know if those empty buildings came back to life?
Yes, that's what I'm saying.
They did?
You'd be surprised, those of you that are familiar with downtown San Antonio, there's this ugly building right across from the Greyhound, or catty corner from the Greyhound, that now looks decent. It's still empty, but wow, it looks like something's about to happen in that building, and they're telling me nothing's about to happen in that building. They just brought it into.
See, would that be a hard sell when the property owner made the investment, yet if it still sits there empty?
Yeah.
It's gonna be a hard sell.
Can I ask, you said that they did something with the taxes. Did they lower the taxes initially and then
No.
give them a
No,
sort
they
of
hired, they
period?
were.
It's higher.
But it doesn't sound like immediately.
No,
It was like
I don't know the detail. I just know that there was a, they gave a property owner a grace period saying, okay, we understand you can't do something with it, it's taking you a while to get this off the ground, but enough time. I just don't know what that grace period is.
I mean, ultimately, those are the kind of decisions that need to be made. How much time do we give somebody to fix this, be it the owner or be it the tenant? But if we see that this building has been there, I mean, I went to the park as an example. I went to the meeting, the parking lot meeting that was, where was one of them, there was several. And one of the owners said, well, I fixed my building when they fixed, I can't remember where it was. I fixed my building in Iturbide when they fixed it, but a lot of them didn't.
Right.
So some of them look pretty bad and some look decent. So one that did something back when Iturbide happened to look decent, but the ones that didn't don't. So how do you push, everybody? And that's where you kind of have to make that decision.
I think the answer to that, though, is I'm pretty sure when they implemented that policy you're talking about, I would almost guarantee in my head that they also implemented the chip policy and other incentive policies to actually fix the buildings. So, as a property owner, that sounds scary, but, if you add incentives to fix and do all those things,
Right.
then it makes sense.
I'll dig up the email and I'll forward it to the board members so that you can all have it. And in answer to the question Ben was asking, so Ben, there is, I don't know if it was because of the downtown, San Antonio has a downtown, a Houston Street TERS. I don't know if in a Southtown TERS, and that's the areas that it affected. I don't know if they were responsible for it or it was a city initiative.
But isn't that what we're going for?
Yep.
Like, Patty said, if your building's abandoned, well, you have to do certain things so it doesn't look just completely
Yeah.
run down. That would be a part of
I agree.
the ordinance.
Yeah.
Or, the facade is rusty, falling down, signs are hanging, broken.
I don't think a TERS
That should
actually
already be there.
That's
But
what
that's
an
not really what-
MMD implements,
yeah,
and
we're
San
not-
Antonio has that.
we're
San
not
Antonio
charged
has a
for
downtown MMD.
No, but that's part of the beautification of
Right, and
downtown.
so in many cities where there are TERS in place, the TERS boards work together with whatever public improvement district, business district, management district, whatever the property owners, businesses, whoever's contributing, right, work together, similar to some kind of mall association, homeowners of community association to maintain whatever the TERS builds, the district, business improvement district.
Regulates.
Public improvement district, management district, there are multiple names because they have different
Right.
details. They manage and maintain, and that's how it goes forward, right? That's what some other cities do, that's what they do.
But there's nothing to stop the board from making recommendations. So, the short of it is no, we just need to know what, we need to discuss it.
Now, I'll circulate the vacancy, the city of San Antonio has a website for the vacancy registry program. So you look at the.
Oh, that's interesting.
Yeah. I'll send you all the link.
Thank you. Any other comments about the ideas that the walking tour brought to mind that anybody else would like to share?
I think you mentioned my only concern about what I saw on those drawings is that it was only viewing, connecting the outlet mall to the downtown,
East to
which
west.
which is important. Like, don't get me wrong, but I think it's equally as important
No,
as
it's-
connecting it. Exactly, since we do currently have people, a lot of people, believe it or not, that work in the downtown
Yeah.
and can be activated.
That was just for, like we said, we have to start
Yeah,
somewhere.
that was one of
That's
like
where we
five.
start.
Yeah.
And that's all it was referring
Yeah,
to. That was
that's
the
fine.
start, that we said, okay, that's the most obvious start.
But that idea of what you brought up, that north, from, where did you say, from here?
Yeah, from
From
Houston.
From the west.
Houston down.
This one's Houston.
I guess that-
Where's the bike lane at? Is that Salinas or is that?
Convent.
Convent, it's on Convent.
But, so that just goes north.
Oh, the
No.
bike lane's only north?
Yeah,
Yeah.
right.
Yeah, well, that street only goes
Yeah.
north,
Right.
right? It goes north all until it gets to the neighborhood.
I guess because we were walking east to west, we're thinking it's that, but,
Well, 'cause
I
we
mean,
just-
I'm envisioning that as we fix that street going east to west, and as we go up, we fix the ones going north as well. I mean, it would be a continuity all along.
Well, but it is true that there's the city hall, the courthouse, the county, all the people that work and come to use the services of these facilities are.
And it's like I was
consumers.
telling Julian as well, I mean, when this was prepared, obviously, the main discussion was the convention center. The convention center taking a little bit of a different turn. Does that mean that we have to keep the same 12 blocks or this direction? I mean, nothing says that we can't, go west to east in Zaragoza and then take one of these other ones and go all the way up to,
Right.
like you were mentioning, the federal courthouse and do somewhat of an L shape to
Right.
what we
So
improve.
they
I
connect.
still
And they
think
connect,
that- I still
so.
feel Zaragoza's super important.
Critical.
I agree.
I agree, yeah,
I think we would
That's
all
like
agree to that.
so obvious.
When we walk today,
Yeah, like
I agree.
that's our people
Yes.
coming into our country and leaving our country.
one is
Yeah.
as what's in need
I have
and
to
one is
agree
what
with
can
you.
be
I
the
agree with
model.
you. I agree with you.
Like
And
the
what's
most
not
obvious.
included there, which I'm surprised, is Tatangelo, which connects the art
It's because
center.
it's not so ugly.
Yeah,
When you take it in the
Yeah,
big picture.
yes, exactly. So where do you stretch your dollars? I do think Tatangelo is, or I'm sorry,
It just
Tatangelo,
needs a
Zaragoza
facelift.
is
Tangelo
important.
needs another
Yes,
little
Zaragoza
facelift,
is.
yeah.
especially
Can
with
you
the
imagine
improvements with the
Zaragoza
bridge.
looking something like you could read it? Then I'd walk down.
Yeah.
I'd walk down that road.
And you go to the mall.
Then I'd go to the mall.
Y'all were pointing out to all the cables, I mean, you looked at it to read it, no cables.
Beautiful.
And over here, you can
Yeah.
see.
That's right, yeah.
Okay, any other comments? I don't want to disagree, and I agree. I don't want to leave the impression that I disagree with you. I think we do need to work with the property owners. My question is timing there, but that's critical. Especially if we're going to have any project that helps interact with the property owner, and again, we're not saying this is what's going to be done. It's just an example, and I always say this with a caveat, but we have a facade program in place, so that the property owner contributes something to the facade and the church contributes something to the facade. Well, we need to know who the property owners are. That's how you address it. So this cannot be a not knowing your property owners. Can you imagine fixing Zaragoza and not having,
That's already been
The
done.
management district.
Yeah, they have that chart
that
that
whole
says who
grants
owns what.
and
That works,
so then it's a matter of activating it.
just asking for it.
Any other comments? I know this has been a long afternoon, so I don't, and this is the only item on the agenda. There's not anything else to discuss, but are there any other comments?
Are we all in agreement that what Patty said about the Zaragoza, that area that we walked today is maybe like the critical first
Yep.
starting point?
I think the council saw that, I think the city thought that, I think we think that. I don't think we disagree that making connecting the outlets with what we call the plaza is a priority.
Yes.
Yeah.
I guess with that in mind, if we make that one, I will go ahead and start asking, working with some of the departments just to see what do we have on file that, based on the work that was done with the outlets and stuff, as far as like the ownership and whatever information I can collect to start preparing for Zaragoza as far as.
Especially when we hire the person, it'll put them ahead of
We can be a
time.
little bit
Yeah.
ahead with the information, so I guess if we want to put that in a form of a motion, that way we know that that's what we're going to concentrate, then I can start talking engineering, planning, whoever it is, let me start finding out, okay, this is what we're going to work first.
So why don't you put that in the form of a motion?
Okay, well, a motion that we make Zaragoza, and I guess to identify it, and we all agree that it has to be from Salinas forward. I mean, from Salinas west, it has already been worked because of the outlet, so it would have to be from Salinas east all the way to San Agustin. And we would make those, how many? It would be 3 blocks. So from Salinas, motion that we prioritize Zaragoza from Salinas east all the way to San Agustin.
Including the
Including-
route south to Mexico, the pedestrian route.
South, okay.
Mayor, Mr. Chair, Okay.
We'll have discussion after we get a second, and then we'll do the discussion. But are you finished with it? And then the second part of what you said was, and bringing together collecting the information from the city department.
Right, so that I can initiate collecting information for those 3 blocks from Salinas to San Agustin, on Zaragoza.
There's a motion on the table, is there a second?
I'll second.
Okay, there's a motion and a second. We now have discussion, and first, I saw Julian raise his hand
Okay.
earlier. Julian, do you have a comment about this, or was that a separate comment?
It's separate.
Okay.
My only comment was to perhaps for Martin and the second to expand to take it all the way to Santa Úrsula in the event that we do have a conference facility between San Bernardo and San Agustin. You don't want to leave that out. I know you could change it later, but
Right.
I don't know that it would hurt to take yourself all the way to Santa Úrsula.
Would you agree to amend your motion to include that? So the motion has been amended to run it through Santa Úrsula in the case that there should be a convention or / conference center project. Okay? So it's been amended. Carol?
I would like to see it also include that route, the pedestrian route to the bridge on, down Salinas Street.
So
That-
take,
That
That
incline.
1 block.
To include-
Yeah.
would you-
And- yeah.
That's fine. I
So-
will. I guess, I'll
yes.
restate my
To
motion.
include-
Amend my motion as following, to include that 1 block from Salinas, Zaragoza, south, all the way to the bridge, and then Salinas to Santa Úrsula and Zaragoza.
Any other comments? Very good. So it's been moved and seconded that as a priority, the TERS address the area from Salinas to Santa Úrsula, the street of Zaragoza, from Salinas to Santa Úrsula, including the leg that goes down to the bridge on Salinas.
It's water, no, I remember it's water, so it would be from Zaragoza to water.
To water. It's been seconded as well, and there's been discussion. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Motion carries. Very good. Julian?
Well, I'm not sure if it was quite frankly in the same motion, but I do think you need to have some form of connection to Iturbide, because at the end of the day, the most amount of investment that's happened, I want to say, most of the permitting has been along Iturbide Street. So I think it's just as important. And I don't really understand the clear nature of the motion to just say, is that where all the money's going from this point on, or?
No, focus. So as the TERS, as the description of the TERS is given to us, there's a zone. So we have a TERS zone set, but the council went even a step further and it told us to focus on about a 4 block by 4 block area. That includes Iturbide. So it's not as if
Not in the motion that was given.
No.
That's why I'm a little
No.
confused on the.
No.
because we are, I'm sorry, because our funds are limited,
Mhm.
and we can't begin by saying, we could say, we can make a motion that we're going to address the zone that was given to us by the council, and immediately we don't have enough money. We have to start somewhere, and what we're saying here, the board is agreeing that we're looking at this connection as a start to be moving forward. Certainly when you hired someone, we're gonna have to be looking to connecting the other parts that join into it. It's not at the expense, but when you put your first dollar down somewhere, we have to decide where that dollar is gonna go.
You're leaving out the bars and restaurants, which are the entertainment sector. The idea is you're pulling from the outlet malls for more shopping, but you're leaving entertainment and bars and restaurants out. I'm not saying all of Iturbide, I'm saying a connection. Like, by example, you go up to Tangelo, there's no lighting. So you are pulling people from the hotel to the outlet mall and leaving everything out when you're talking about the after hours of 7 o'clock.
Right.
Yeah.
So-
That lighting concern could just be addressed.
That's
That's-
just a,
That,
Yeah.
I'm not talking about all that, I'm just talking about-
The group, I would say.
You're
that-
creating that connection and you're leaving out entertainment and restaurants out of that connection. That's at the end of the day.
Again, so would, and again, we're not asking for another motion to table or anything like that, but, so with the motion, we could add to the motion and add this block and this piece and focus on this here. So we could be creating the piecemeal there, but we have to see, we have to begin somewhere. And you know, are we saying, you know, the north and south connection isn't important now? And so we add that to the motion. So then if we add the north-south connection to the motion, we're rebuilding the yellow zone that was passed by ordinance. See, the council was clear. This is the district, and so we can't go beyond the district. And within the district, this is the zone we have to concentrate on. And I hear what you're saying. You're saying, why are you concentrating on Zaragoza and not Iturbide?
No, that's not what I'm saying now. I'm looking at it as an L.
Connection.
Yeah.
Think of it as an L.
Yeah,
You're-
but we word, that was what we were doing.
Okay.
Originally, but we had to like
Yeah.
narrow it to the money. So originally, it was connecting the art center to the outlet mall in a big L. And that's what you're talking about. Center for the Arts, down to Zaragoza, and all the way over.
Well, that's another block that you're
I-
adding. I'm not.
I
I'm
just-
talking
No,
about
I mean,
block
but
to
that's,
center of
that's
the-
the.
I'm just talking about where the bars and restaurants currently are. And the only reason I'm bringing it up is because I go, you know, we were talking about organizations that exist in the downtown, and I go to the Bar Association meetings. And that's their biggest gripe, is there's no connection between them and.
But that's
the outlet
Tangelo.
malls.
It's
Julie.
Tangelo Parkway.
There's no, by example, let's say you went to Zaragoza and you added lighting. You wouldn't, according to this motion, you would not have added lighting going up to Iturbide along to Tangelo. Right now,
But that's the second part of
the
it.
perspective I
And
give.
that's, and so I don't want to see, again, what I don't want to do is create the impression that I don't want to say yes to everything. Yes, we're going to do that either. We have X amount to begin with, so we have to target a block that we work on. Which block are we saying, is the board saying we're going to target first? Basically, it is a block by block deal. How much money is there?
By the end of this February, we'll probably get close to 500,000.
A very rough estimate, and I know you've been to these meetings, a very rough estimate is it takes $500,000 to do one block.
Well, so that's why I'm a little curious, because why even say 3 blocks then?
No,
Unless you.
I mentioned, well,
No,
for
but-
information purposes, so that we can.
We
start-
mentioned the 3 blocks because we have to connect something. And
Yes.
the council was specific in saying we needed to collect. This is not up to us. We're not deciding that the outlets are going to be connected to this area. It's a council direction that the outlets have to be connected to this area. Now, we were saying that Zaragoza is the connection of the outlets to the downtown area. You could connect outlets north, then we'll ignore Zaragoza. If the idea of what you're saying is go north instead of go west. But
That's not what
No,
I'm
he's not
saying.
that. And Julie,
I think
I
it's.
just, I wanted to bring up that our next little walking tour was going to be at night. And exactly what you're talking about, starting where we started today, but heading, you know, at night to see what the lighting situation is.
Yes, and we're gonna do that. Again, I'm not disagreeing with this, but what I do not want to leave the impression is that we can do, we have $500,000, guys.
And I guess, if I understand, also, Julian, you've mentioned lighting a couple of times. Ramon, when I was telling him, I don't know if you have time to join us, or, you know, we're gonna have this one. He himself, just, if they mention anything on lighting, we are already doing some of that. We have X amount of dollars. We received some lighting and we installed it on Iturbide. We're gonna continue, just so that they know that at least on this area, we're already working on it. So, I don't know, you know, which street or which block is next, but that is already kind of happening. The other thing that I kind of foresee here is, it seems like we've talked about, you know, infrastructure underground, well, it seems like everybody wants to do that. You know, we also, I would think, have to be very selective or prudent in how we go about it, because if we do stuff that's on top temporary for right now, and then we're gonna have to tear it apart 2 years from now. So, but I think your concern, if I'm correct, I mean, would be addressed with what Ramon is and Blasita are currently working on.
So just to use an example of the walk that we just did, this is my concern of leading certain, I understand the majority, let's say you have a plan and you say there's these 4 blocks, but we're gonna project manage, because that's the key, is this is what's happening within this board, is you guys are gonna come in and say, this is what's gonna happen within this area. And you leave an area out of that, not in dollars, but in planning. You end up with what you see on the streets. So you did bring up lighting and how that's something that is already being addressed somewhere else. So what's the uniformity between that plan and this plan? That's my majority concern. It's not the dollars, it's the plan.
And that's
And
my
if the
concern.
TERS's plan, when it comes to connecting, does not at least include in their concept of the plan, which is right now only along Zaragoza, I'm concerned that there's gonna be a disconnect
No,
between.
I think the motion
That's a
that I
good
made
point.
was for
It's not
information.
dollars,
because
it's plan.
That's a good
But
point,
we
but
have-
that's the purpose of bringing
Bringing
the
in
person,
people that
the
tell us
person who's
what's
gonna
gonna
help
be
putting this
doing.
together
We've been doing
is
that.
going to be looking at this as a whole.
Thank you, that's where I was gonna go. I said, right now,
Yeah.
motion was just for me to
Yeah.
collect information of which area we were gonna look first. When we do this request for qualification, they come in, I'm hoping that the board will
That
say,
was one of the
okay,
main things we wanted to avoid, was the overlap, or that we plan something and somebody else is gonna come in and do
So the
something else.
motion is to do.
gather
Make-
information, because that's the first area
To
that
assess.
we're trying to assess, so that if we get started, we start there. But by the time whoever we hire comes in, I have some information already on that 4 blocks.
And I think what he's referring to is
It's the
bringing in the
overall
person,
plan.
Ramon, that you said, that it was in charge of updating the lighting, that he be included in some of these decisions,
No, and-
so that if
Which
there's
is my
not
point on the
that disconnect
public-private.
again.
And
So that the city's not doing things
No,
Right,
and
so-
if-
without,
right,
you know,
us knowing
like
what's
they're
going on.
an
Right.
independent,
Right.
without including the community.
And I don't
of the
know if
property.
you remember as an example, Ramon came
Right.
5 months ago.
Right.
Because I told him, we need to start connecting everything together, what are
Yes.
the steps, so that is the plan, and I guess now we understand exactly what you're trying to do. I mean, I'm thinking that whoever we hire as a consultant is gonna put the overall plan together.
And this,
Before-
city won't do anything
Yes.
before.
Before we have
That's
that plan.
The disconnect I had,
Okay.
that's my
Yes.
concern. It's
Yeah.
not where specifically the dollars are going, it's just that there is before dollars are spent, that there's a plan that encompasses
Yes.
what we
Yes.
believe the connections to be.
We're hoping
And,
this-
yeah, it's not where dollars necessarily are
Yes.
spent, but, okay.
And not only that, the person's not gonna be hired to zone in on that area. They have to take the
That's my
area as a
concern.
whole.
So if
But what
that's
we're,
clear, then.
but from what I understand of the motion said that if we were, by walking and what we saw today, if we were to say, you have to address, this is something you need to build into your plan, because doesn't connect. That's what we are saying. It doesn't connect.
Then I understand.
Yeah.
That was my concern, is
Okay.
what you exactly said, but you're clarifying it, so.
Very good.
Great.
How are we with that? When are they supposed to, what's the deadline?
It's end of January,
January 31st.
January 31st, so it's already been posted and,
I don't know, but it's been posted. I worked with Ramon and got a list of local engineers, architects, just to make sure that, aside from the ones that are already registered with us, because since we do it in city bid, it's electronic. If you're already registered and you're doing the type of work we're requiring, you're automatically getting that email. But we also worked on a list of anybody else that could possibly be able to do that work. And there was some duplication in the sense that Mike Pescado from Purchase said, we already have one on the list, so, and he added the ones, manually emailed the ones that don't want that. So, but it's been posted,
But
and
you don't know who's,
as of today, I don't know. how many.
Anybody.
No. So, in January 31st, which is a Thursday, that's when they're due.
any other comments, questions? Very good. There are no more items, so we can't discuss anything else because it's not on the agenda. So the next item on the agenda is adjournment. I'd like to entertain a motion that we adjourn.
Second.
There's a motion
I motion.
and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
All those opposed, same sign. Meeting is adjourned. Thank you, everybody, and please keep feelers out for the nighttime walk.